Call to order the Planning Commission meeting for September 6th. Let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Patty, you want to start this one?
Yes.
All right.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Hamel? Here. Commissioner Padilla is absent. Commissioner Sarkia?
Here.
Vice Chair Heedy is absent. Chair Dunstan?
Here. Okay. Reordering of agenda, none. Any presentations? Looks like none. And looking for the approval of the minutes from the regular Planning Commission dated August 2nd, 2018. Anyone want a motion for approval of the mission?
A motion to approve.
And I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Patty? I abstain because I wasn't here.
That works. Okay. Public comments? No? Okay. Consent calendar, it looks like nothing there. And continued public hearing. So we got resolution number 18-05, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Buellton, California, recommending City Council approval of a final development plan 17-FDP-02 and tentative track map TTM 31060 for the Central Homes project located on northeast corner of First Street and Central Avenue. Assessors parcel numbers 099283005, 099283006, and 099283007, and making findings in support thereof. Andrea?
Good evening, Chair Dunstan and Commissioners. This is the continued public hearing for the Central Homes project that's located on the corner of First Street and Central Avenue. The project consists of 8 single-family homes, a central pathway for access, a common barbecue area, and landscaping. A tentative tract map is also required to subdivide the existing lots into 8 individual lots for each home. The public hearing was originally opened on July 19th and was continued to September 6th and subsequently continued to tonight's meeting due to outstanding items and corrections that are needed to be made to the plans. Staff does continue to work with the applicant to help in providing a complete set of plans, and the applicant has provided an updated set of plans that are dated September 14th, 2018. And that's what you have in attachment 2, and I've also included the PDF of them in case we have any questions or want to go through any of the sheets as necessary.
Okay.
I also have included a picture of the color board because the color board is with the applicant actually out for corrections currently, so I wanted to get a picture of the color board which is what my comments are based on, which is this picture here. Okay. So many of the changes have been made. I know that there was a list of changes that the Planning Commission had directed the applicant to make at the last time we went through a lot of the items. However, there are still some big picture items that are important items that are that need to be clarified on the plans in order to clearly show the intent of the project and just providing some more internal consistency amongst the plan sheets. So I'll go through each of the items that I laid out in your staff report. I'm not in a whole lot of detail. If there's anything in particular you wanted to go into more detail about, I'd be happy to do so. So the first item that's outstanding is details regarding the 20-foot required alley pavement per the fire department. And actually I have the site plan up here. So, and it's a little hard to see on this, but you have the plan sets. Sure. The site plan just does not clearly show where the pavement exists, where it's going to go, where exactly the easement is required on the property. And so basically with this comment here, I've asked the applicant to provide a cross-section of the alleyway detail, and I've kind of shown them the level of detail that we would need to see on this cross-section in order to get a clear understanding as to where the existing width, the new pavement area in relation to the different elements and the different property lines. There's Red Rose Court and then their property, and then that will dictate and that will show how much of an easement area is required. But a lot of that detail is missing from the plans, And so I'm asking that the applicant provide some details in that cross-section that would clear it up for everyone reviewing the plans. That kind of is tied, the next point, the alley easement, is kind of tied to the same comment there. Basically, the alleyway easement needs to be shown clearly on the plans and consistently amongst all sheets. So just a quick comment on that. I noticed that the tentative map shows a 2-foot easement and the site plan shows 3 feet of additional pavement on the property. So just consistency amongst the sheets, whichever it is, it needs to be clearly shown and consistently shown on the plan sheets. Moving on quickly here to the architectural elevations. This is really related to the architectural elevations, the 3D rendering, and the color board, and also the non-colored elevations. The 3D rendering I put over there in case you guys needed to reference it and view it, or you could pass it around, anything you need. But just quickly, I wanted to go through some of the overall inconsistencies and areas where I think there could be more clarity provided and intent and things like that as it relates to the color board and elevations, etc. So sheet A4 of the plans does provide some color elevations, and the colors are not exactly accurately depicted in those color elevations, so that's why it's important to view the color board, the picture of the color board, because I think that those are the actual colors, and I think that will clarify some of the softer tones that we were looking for the buildings. So essentially what's missing from the color elevations is color elevations are not provided for buildings 1, 3, 4, and 6, and so I have asked the applicant to either provide color elevations for each of those buildings or at least clarify on sheet A4, and I'll flip to it so we can take a look. Or at least clarify on sheet A4 which buildings the colors that are shown are representing. You know, as the commission had requested at the last meeting, there was a request to mix up the colors in the site layout, and so for instance, at the top there, the colors represented actually only represent building 5, and building 1 is a different color. So a lot of it is just clarifying which buildings are which colors, and utilizing one of those 2 options, I think, will clarify that. In addition, in the next staff report, when we bring this back again, I'm going to have a spreadsheet that will lay out the different buildings, the different plans, and the different colors and materials that are associated with each one, so that it's, in addition to the corrections that I'm having the applicant make, this spreadsheet will also provide additional clarification as to what those colors and materials are.
Andrea, can I ask you a quick question? Mm-hmm. Sorry to interrupt. Mm-hmm. So I see what you're talking about here. It says building 1 and 5, but you're saying in the documentation it's actually saying that it's only building 5. It's that color orientation. Right, at least that's what it appears to be in my, based on the color board provided and based on the colors listed in the non-colored elevations, and in addition to the 3D renderings. That's what it appears to be. So it's just a matter of clarifying that on that sheet, whether they provide another color elevation or only reference building 5 and somehow tie building, make a note on the sheet that to reference color board for building 1 colors, etc. That kind of a thing. And similar comment for Plan 2. The colors that are represented actually represent, from what I could tell, buildings 2 and 7, not 2 and 6, so it's just a labeling error there. And then 4 and 8, I believe the colors shown there only represent colors for building 8. So kind of same comment as for Plan 1 there. And then just an additional comment, buildings 3 and 7 are also included in Plan 2, so that's where those color elevations are missing. However, I've just asked that, they at least, if they're not going to provide color elevations for each individual building, to at least label it in a way that accurately and clearly depicts which buildings are actually shown in the color elevations. So, and then in your picture with the color board here, I've just asked the applicant to clarify a few things. The wall tiles, there's 2 wall tiles types that are proposed.
However, there seems to be, it appeared that there was mislabeling and it wasn't clear which tile was which. So in that regard, just providing some clarification. And I think a lot of this is just about labeling and clearly showing it and laying the color board out in a way that's clear and shows the intent. I think that will aid in helping in providing some clarification for the intent. I think other than that, there was just, again, some mislabeling, so it wasn't entirely clear which colors were for which buildings. So I've asked them to kind of provide additional labels for the different buildings and which colors are which materials and things like that to make it easy and quick for the commission to understand which colors are for which building. And again, I think the spreadsheet that I will also provide at the next staff report will help with that as well. So. The last bullet point in your staff report is just the overall plan consistency. So, let's see, I'm just going to scroll here. So, the site plan, so this is really related to the site plan and the landscape plan and how those are internally consistent or not. And basically, they're proposing an additional 2 or 3, depending on how the cross-section turns out, 2 or 3 feet of additional pavement that will be required on their property. However, the site plan really does not clearly delineate where that pavement edge is. There is a little little line marking where that location is, but what we need is more clarification across how far of a distance and just labeling so that it doesn't appear to be landscaping, because that area will be pavement and we just need some clarification on the site plan. And I'll flip to the landscape plan here. Same comment, it's just kind of a little line mark and they're still showing landscaping in that area, so we just need them to clearly delineate, take all the landscaping out and clearly delineate that as additional pavement, as just to provide less confusion and more consistency between the sheets, as I mentioned before. So those were really, and then again, just one last comment, the landscaping component, well, the landscaping percentage will be reduced because of the additional pavement that's required, and so we just asked that they redo the calculation of landscaping to reflect that change. And really those were the big things, and without going into a lot of the detail on the plans, those were really the overarching themes of just mainly the architectural color elevations, providing some consistency and showing consistency and the appropriate level of detail on the plans as it relates to these items. So I'll just quickly go through, as part of your staff report, some of the changes that the applicant has made in response to some of the Planning Commission's comments from last time. So a lot of them were addressed and incorporated in some way into the plans. So I'll just go through quickly. I know that the last meeting there was concern about adding a street light, and so that will be part of the building plans and will be a condition of approval that they find an appropriate location working with the Public Works Director and planning staff and get that light installed as part of their project. They did install story poles, so 30 days prior to the public hearing, the story poles were installed on August 6th and still are up. Next point, bullet point number 3, change the south elevation to make the homes look less identical. So it may not be entirely clear just because of the inconsistencies amongst the different color elevations and different materials, but it does appear that their intent is to provide different color schemes for the buildings 4 and 8 to at least provide some difference so that it doesn't look so monochromatic. The next point, add fencing to the north boundary wall. They have included clear depictions of what their intent is for the wall on the north boundary wall. The only comment that I will have on that, and will be included as a condition of approval, is that the exact location on the property that the wall fence will be located is not entirely clear, but that I will add as a condition of approval, and we'll take a look at some of the vision clearance and sight distance issues because there are driveways for other homes right near there. Changing the layout of the color scheme to add variety. So they did do that, and I think it's most clearly depicted on the 3D rendering here. There was colors kind of lined up in a row, and the applicant has taken it upon themselves to really move some of those colors around to provide some variety and not have 2 of the same color schemes right next to each other. So I think as we work with the applicant to make some of the plans consistent, that will be a little more clear in some of the other plan sheets. And using a softer blue color, you will see on your picture here that you have the pool house blue color that they are proposing now under Plan 2, currently shown as under Plan 2. And I'll let the applicant clarify, but I believe these are the old blue colors, so they really have tried to provide a softer blue and something that's doesn't stand out as much. So with that, I move to staff recommends that Planning Commission provide any additional comments to the applicant on the project plans, and staff recommends that the public hearing is continued to the November 1st Planning Commission meeting to allow the applicant to finalize and correct all remaining inconsistencies on the plans.
Andrea, can I ask just one question?
We should wait for public comments. You'll have an opportunity.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of formal.
I was just going to leave you all to your stuff and.
But do you want to, we were going to ask the applicant to come up and have some words, and maybe they can address any questions you may have right then. Would you guys like to come up and give us an overview?
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Okay. What I believe there's 3 issues. First one issue is early, regarding on the payment required. Second one is color concern. But another thing is some small item, minor item, I do believe it. First one, early. I just took a picture on it. In personal, my opinion is early is not belong to us. Okay? So our property line, I showed you here. It's the existing building here. The age of the building, this is our property line, this is alley. Currently 20 feet wide, pavement like this. Okay. Some portion here, sorry. Yeah. Some portion is paved, some portion is not.
Okay.
Closely here. This is our property line here, main issue here. But when I talk with Captain Grant, who is a fire department, what is the major issue for the alley? He clearly said, this is power pole. Okay, so what I measure from the building, age of the building to the age of the power pole line, less than 2 feet. So first I told the city, what do you like to do? Okay, 2 feet wide, extension wide, easement, acceptable. We like to do. And then following to city direction, I put I'm not sure if 2 feet or 3 feet. Their decision, so I put the 2 to 3 feet. 2 feet or 3 feet between there. I explained it. And then biggest problem next door is already existing building there. This property line here is already here. It's the same area.
So this is the back
next
neighbor?
Door. Yeah,
next door behind?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see the property line here.
Okay.
Okay. I know this is cannot see 1 feet, 2 feet. It's still on the HC payment here. We like to do, but next door is here. Some portion has to be demolished, but this is not main issue. So that's why I put the approximately 2 to 3 feet. But she like to definitely what area what I do. So I follow up. I stop by here the city. I just correct the whole drawing. But she showed this old one.
Well, this is what was submitted on September 14th, and that's what
Okay. So we submit. Today send it to them. Whatever she corrected, we corrected. I worked the last night, whole night. I corrected everything I submit. And one example there with the color. No, color before. This means how agreed what I showed. Color chart on bottom. And also drawing A1 to A2, A3, it clearly clarified what color on the building number. Follow the building number. I showed you, you probably able A1, A2, A3. And then
Michael, excuse me, you'll need to use the microphone,
Yeah, if you could.
so you can pull it
There's
off
a
and
microphone
carry
up
it.
there so the
Yeah.
the audience can hear.
The first time I showed a section drawing. Probably previously she has one. Maybe you can show old one.
I'm sorry, which?
C4. I showed the alley. What do you call it? 20 feet wide, clearly. Age of powerful. The new pavement 20 feet wide. But as for her direction, I revised the drawing. I showed one more detail on top, more clearly. Like this. This one, alley, I showed it here to there. So, personal opinion, I just my personally,
I think there
alley
might,
is not the main issue.
I think there might be a little confusion on the actual package that you submitted on this certain date that came here.
Okay.
And now you've made some changes,
Okay.
which you're presenting,
Okay.
but that's two different
Right.
things.
Yes.
And if I can just comment, he did submit PDFs to me today, but they take time to review and prepare to make, if they're making changes, it takes time to review, then to package it up to present to the commission.
Right.
So that's why I'm presenting what was given to me a couple weeks ago, in order to comment on that. It does take some time to review the plans and.
As I told you earlier, is color concern. Drawing A1, A2, A3 clarified all color for the building. Also, she mentioned about the stone. I brought the stone sample, but seems to me she didn't look at it. Why didn't you bring the stone
Well,
stone sample?
one thing I've noticed, and through looking at this, even looking at the new revised version that you gave.
Yeah, that one. So we agree
It
with.
doesn't, it's not consistent.
No, that's the old one. Yes.
Okay, so that's, I think, part of the.
Yeah, because that
What's-
one we
what's
bought the
accurate?
stone, but stone is heavy. You cannot put it together. We put them separate to one, but she didn't look at it. That's why we provided three kinds of it. But that is not an issue. One thing I already put a note: all color of the building color shall be approved by city planner before the construction. The measure is clearly everything's on. But my point is, we were here last June. I'm working out of country, and what I expect is one street pole. 3 days later, we install on it. What I expected, okay, September 4th, it might we get a public hearing. I'm ready to change the flight to over there, cancel on it. So I thought it's September 20 at least. I did again to cancel again. This time, we fixed everything's on. I decided, okay, go to there, October 4th. At least October 18th, you can get a hearing. But now, she told us she needs 17 days review. Even if we submit today, it's not fair.
If I can just comment on that. So I need time to review the plans, not only review the plans, but also prepare the public hearing materials that are based upon what's submitted to me. So a lot of it is prepared, but it does take, this is not my only project, and so, it does take time to review the plans to make sure that they've addressed the comments in addition to preparing the public hearing materials and getting the packet sent out. So that's, takes a couple weeks as it is. So I'm requesting at least 3 weeks prior to the public hearing date that I have the updated materials to give me time to prepare the public hearing. So
Yeah, and
I don't.
believe that's consistent with how we've handled all of
Yes.
it, all submissions. So, I mean, I can understand.
Yeah, I fully understood, but it's for us or my client. Time frame is very, very important, because if we get it November 1st, we can get a building permit probably 40 days or 60 days later, which means end of December. We cannot start construction up to February, March.
Well, let me
So
just,
far, with 7 months loss, since 6 June, what she started, 17 days, is okay. She's working hard. I know, I appreciate her effort, but our concern, we're losing too much. Only 2 years. And another years, you cannot believe it, too much. So what I like to do is just speed up to review, and we like to get October 18 to get a public hearing at finalize everything's on, then I like to go back to the work out of country.
Well, I can understand what, the challenges you have, and you probably have some internal milestones that you want
Please.
to achieve. I can understand that. But, we also need the time to be able to review ourselves. Andrea and the team in the planning office needs to do their job. It's consistent. It's a process that's followed by everybody who submits. It's got to be that way. And if the plans don't meet the expectations, we've got to continue to work with you to get it to make sure that we all understand. Unfortunately, the commission cannot just approve something because there's a timeline. We need to be able to go through it, feel comfortable and confident that the plans that are being submitted, our names will be on it, it will go to city council, and then we will represent that as well. But we're not going to approve something.
Yeah, we're not asking about the approve. Just we're trying to get a hearing, public hearing, 18th. Only 5 items indicated on drawing. We already revised. We submit today. So I don't think it takes a 17 days review. It's kind of it,
That's just how that's how they all work. I mean, this is the timeline of the
But
planning.
if you can do, I strongly request out your people and Andrea, if you can do, we like to have it October 18, because for myself, I have to go back 20. No more chance to come back again. Please. I understand. You already told, yes.
So if we were to schedule an October 18th public hearing, that would have to assume that what was submitted today has all of the corrections made, which again, it's not my only project, so it would take me some time to review. I'm out of the office half the week next week. So while I understand Michael's, timeline, these things, like you had mentioned, Brian, they take time to review. We don't want to rush through any of these public hearings. Again, he submitted updated drawings today, which I have not had a chance to take a look at yet. So it would be, and then that's in addition to preparing all of the documentation and the conditions of approval. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes to put together, approval documentation. So,
And if I could add one thing too, the packets are prepared a week before the meeting, so the packet would have to be ready next Thursday.
Okay, we try.
Which
If I
is,
miss
there's
it, we
also
try the
the
best,
staff
yes.
report, the resolutions, everything would have to be ready next Thursday.
and
Okay.
again, I'm out through next Wednesday, or I will be back next Wednesday, which that does not seem to be a realistic timeline for me. So.
The last time
As
too-
it's a public hearing, there's also timing notices that the public has to be notified, and I don't know exactly, but
So,
like 30 days.
The public has been notified, and so since this is a continued public hearing, that's actually not something that's factored in because they've already been notified. So that's not a time constraint, but just simply the packets and the fact that, I've just received, the reason that we continued it to the 1st was because of understanding these timelines and how long it takes to review plans and get things submitted. So the reason I did not continue it originally to the 18th, or I believe it's the 18th meeting, is because I knew that that was not something that was reachable given the timeline. So.
Okay, fully understood. Sorry about it. I really appreciate it, your effort, but please expedite. Yeah.
But I think we
We
still
need
need
it.
to go through what you have
Yes.
today. And maybe there's a lot of information that's been updated that we haven't been able to digest. But I know I certainly have a number of questions, and I'd love to hear more about what you guys have done since the last time we met, and give us an idea of what the work you're doing. Obviously, you talked about some of the alleyway, the cross sections and the dimensions around that. We still got questions about consistency, colors, and all those types of things. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe we could talk about that a little bit.
Thank
And then
you.
we can get into more specific questions.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We tried our best. Of some couple of days later in next week. Okay.
Do you have anything you wanted to add to?
No, actually we changed this color board. Not this old one. New one is I already show you, and then what else? kind of easement concern, 2 feet wide. I already revised the drawing following her direction, and that sort of thing. Color, we're gonna try and match. But whenever printing, it's a little bit different color coming. But that's why we just put every color name on the drawing, A1, A2, 3.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't, the name of it
Yeah.
necessarily have a
So
value.
first time I just confused SW means, but you told me very clearly, so.
No, and I would
found
like
it.
to add, there, the colors that have been provided, he has gone and gotten the correct colors, and so there, a lot of the corrections that were requested by staff and the commission at the last meeting, they have been made. There's just these bigger items that there's still some inconsistencies left, and in order for staff to recommend that the planning commission recommend approval to the city council, we just need to make sure that the intent is clear, the plans are consistent internally, and that there's nothing that is left unclear, at least big picture. Some of this stuff can be conditions of approval. It's just that we need some level of clarity on some of these items that we've talked about today.
I have a specific question, because I'm getting hung up on this. Because I know the intent, we talked about it in the last meeting. I know the intent, so Plan 3, buildings 4 and 8 are the two that face south on
No, it just.
On First.
And I know we talked about, and I believe your intent was to change those two colors, but we keep seeing here, and I know that's a
Yeah, he's
big
gonna
one,
bring out
but then
new one.
here's,
Even on this one.
yeah, on this one, it's still the same.
this new one.
So you can see the
Oh,
3D
okay.
rendering does show the different colors. It's just the color elevations. The non-colored, I do know that they do list the correct colors. It's just,
looking for?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, we changed that,
So that's a perfect example of
Okay.
detail and consistency. Each different thing has to show the same thing. That's what we seem to be getting hung up on.
Yeah, so that's why I put that.
So the 3D, okay, that's the intent, that's great, that satisfies that condition.
Alright.
But it has to be in every part of the package.
So you like to show the every building, different building, everything's on color together?
Well, whatever the intent is. I mean, if
Yeah.
buildings
Just
2,
put it
3,
down.
6, and 7 all look like
Downstairs
this,
Down there, you can do it too small. No, bottom.
oh, here,
Yeah, that's each
Okay.
building has a color on it.
Okay.
Also, A1 for A3 specify the color, each building.
So if I can just comment, so yes, that's true. It's just that when you look at the color elevations, that's not entirely clear. So again, to Patty's comment, buildings 4 and 8 are proposed to be different colors. However, on the color board here, it shows them
looks
as
the
being
same.
the same.
Yeah.
So even on the new one that you revised, it says with the bluish color, 2, 3, 6, and 7.
And
Is
that's
that
not
one?
the case.
But you only see the blue color on 1, maybe 2 of these. So there's still inconsistencies with what I'm seeing here with the brand new drawing that you gave here. And so we're not saying we want color on every single document you provide. I think it's more about if you're going to supply color references,
Yes, I
they should all
did.
be consistent.
Okay.
Yes.
And then I think that's kind of the ongoing theme is
Okay,
we just want
okay.
consistency.
Color reference together, each building, each color sample on it. It's much easier to, okay?
Yes, and those
It's
are just
okay.
the details that, that we're looking for to be consistent. And that's, again, the overall project intent and design, staff can support that. It's just that some of the details on the plans that have been provided, I think, need some clarification and consistency still, so.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions for the applicant on top of what Ken has started?
I do not have questions, I have comments towards the end.
Okay. I did have a couple of questions since you're up,
Sure.
if you don't mind. The barbecue area, I was looking at the landscape plan, and I can see that building 1 and building 5 are really close, and I think, yeah, are right there, it's kind of to the left-hand side there. Yeah, right there. And I can see you've got a number of potted plants that are going to be there, or plants that will be in planters. Is there any other barrier between the houses and that barbecue area?
I think what he's asking is the vegetation or
The
the plants?
landscaping,
The landscaping, is it just, I believe those are the hedges, correct? The hedges.
Right.
So he's asking, is there anything other than those hedges that?
Fence or any other protection systems on? Maybe we can consider on it. Actually, that one,
Yeah, I'm just worried about the houses being right up next to that hedge.
yeah,
And then
okay.
literally the barbecue area is going to be
We
right
try to
there.
do some,
And if-
hose spray or something
Yeah.
to do,
And if the commission
fire
feels
that-
that there's something in addition to the hedges, like a fence or something else, some other barrier, we can certainly add that as a condition
I
for
think
the applicant.
House plumber already put in a couple of hoses already, the hose pipes area there
Hoses.
to protect the fire hydrant.
Oh, I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about noise.
Noise,
Yes,
Because you're going to
I'm
literally
not
have
sure.
people
I have to ask landscaper,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that we brought
Sure.
up. I think
It's
I
good
wasn't
idea
here the
though.
last time you came.
Yeah.
And it might have been a discussion. I know I brought it up a while back, a number of months ago.
right.
And I just was curious to follow up on that same comment. Another item, which I don't know if it came up last time as well, is there's the driveway, the existing driveway that exists off First Street, not the one that's next to the alleyway, but the one that's in the middle there, is really close to where the walkway, if you look right there, the walkway is. Has there been any concern or any discussion around kind of making sure traffic doesn't have any impact on pedestrian walking in that area? And if you, I don't know if you can see what I'm talking about, maybe. you
Yeah, I
can
know,
point her.
we are talking about this.
That section, yeah, that section right there.
Existing driveway.
Yeah,
Already existed. We
exactly.
just provided, that's the reason we provided here, the garage here.
Yeah, I just have concerns about someone backing out of that driveway, hitting a pedestrian, or
Some kind of
someone coming out of the
protection
walkway inside, and someone coming around the corner and
Some kind of warning light, something here?
something, or maybe a gate. I mean, we talked about having a
Okay.
gate or something like that.
We
It's
can
just,
provide, it's not a big,
yeah,
we can do it.
yeah. I also, it was hard for me to digest the documents, to be quite honest with you, over the last week when I've been reviewing these. It looks like there's a lot of detail, but as I read the script that's in the documents, they talk a lot about general notes about building and, the very
Civil
specific
work,
details
yes.
and technical details. They don't give me a sense of kind of layman's terms what's going on. And I've seen that with other projects. And I don't know where, this may be consistent with what you guys have built in other projects. It's just not consistent with what I've seen. I know Andrea has shared some examples of what we've seen, but maybe you guys can include some of that verbiage and some of that writing in there that will help myself kind of digest more of what you're doing.
Kind of
There's a lot
project
lines.
description, more
Yeah,
details stuff?
description, kind of the
Okay.
overall intent
Okay, I will do.
of what you want
Yeah.
and how you want to do it.
Is it possible you can send me a separate sheet rather than the drawing? Project description. You like to
If you
put in
wanna
the
have
drawing?
some groups, they'll
Sometimes
prepare a
that is on
packet
the
that's
front.
its own kind of,
Okay,
it's kind of similar to what the planner puts together here,
okay.
but it's their own
I
kind
do,
of
yes,
rundown. But
yes.
you can also do it within these as well.
Yeah.
It's really up to you. We
Okay.
just would like that kind of clarity.
And we include the color concept too.
Yeah.
Each building 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. That's easy one.
And to Andrea's point about the landscaping, I think understanding kind of how the impact of the additional pavement will be
Okay.
impacted, will impact the landscape in
All right,
the
we do.
percentages around that. What does that look like? I really like that cross-section. I think you
Thank
guys
you,
did an amazing
appreciate it.
job with that. And really seeing that was like, wow, these are looking
Thank
really
you.
nice.
I have to build it.
Yeah,
Okay,
of
very
course, of
honest.
course.
Very nice one.
Yes,
The area.
exactly. So I think you guys are definitely on the right track there.
Very well with the city of Buellton. Very small area. We can make it nice.
Yeah,
That's why you are working hard. She's working hard too. Then, even if you get lost,
Well,
hard
we've been
time,
working hard
but
as
it's
well.
good experience to us, yes.
We appreciate your hard work.
Thank you, appreciate it too.
Okay, so that being said, I guess we can close the
Thank you.
discussion with you, and then we definitely have some
Thank you.
public comments. I want to make sure that they get a chance to speak. So let's go ahead and move to public comments. Open that up.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm sorry I came in late. I had some questions about some follow-up from the last time I talked about this project, and that was the landscape. I was looking at the pictures, the large picture there. It doesn't quite correlate with this. And so I apologize if I missed that conversation already. Also, after the last meeting, I went in to see Andrea about this just because I wasn't making myself understood, evidently. There's still grass according to this project, and I really think that we're beyond grass. And I would prefer that there be something else besides grass. I know that there's other materials being used, and the idea is to, be. I think that the evidence is that we need to move beyond grass, and whenever possible in a project. And this project, by the way, I love the heights. I think it's a good-looking project, and I respect the changes that you made. I think that definitely headed in the right direction. I like the materials in general. So great on all that. It was just that I needed some clarification on that landscaping with the trees plotted exactly equal. It doesn't show here, and that changes the feel of the project when you have that type of symmetrical issue, which was because the homes were so symmetrical. We were trying to get away from that kind of look by breaking up the homes themselves.
If I can just comment briefly, yes, I see, if you look at the 3D rendering versus the landscape plans, yes, they're not, in terms of the landscaping, they don't really accurately depict, what's actually going to go out on the site. And ideally, we'd have something that is consistent with the landscape plan. However, ultimately, when the project is built, the approved landscape plans is what we would go off of in terms of how the planting. So, in terms of getting a 3D visual of it, yes, it's not accurate as it relates to the landscape plans that are shown, but again, when the project is built, we would go off of the approved landscape plans in the plan set.
So I would really like to have a clear image and picture of that. It shouldn't be that difficult. Just to do that, I think that projects need to be, understood by the council. But by the commissioners and the council, I guess we'll be getting this as well. But the community, we need to see that just a little more clear. Not a lot of detail, just something so that it kind of jives and matches with what the big picture is. The other thing is, right in between the homes off of Central, there's the driveway that goes into the two. Okay? Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm just going to walk over and point to it. It'll be easier. Right here and here. Mm-hmm. This area between these four homes. I brought up the fact of possibly using some kind of fencing or separation between those because their patios are going to be facing each other. They're green space, open space, or whatever. And I said, wow, how tall of a fence? It could be as simple as a split rail fence or whatever would be appropriate with the style that is coming in. But I think if I were to purchase one of these homes, which I'm not planning on, be nice if I could, but I'm not planning on it, if I were to live in that space, I would like to have some kind of closure around my yard area, just a little bit of something. And so I would suggest that just in that area, maybe as a suggestion, a split rail fence, but something of that effect. And I don't think there's really room to be plantings there, but maybe some of your extra landscape that has been lost, maybe there, I don't know. But anyway, that's all I have to say about those things. But I think it's looking really good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Did you want to?
I just had one quick question. Did you say something about a street light?
Would you mind coming up to the podium? I'm sorry.
Did you say something about a street light?
Yes, so at the last meeting, I think the commission had noticed that on the plans, or, out there currently, there are no street lights around that property.
I know, I live on Central. There's one street light and it's up in a tree.
Yes. So their comment was that we do need, additional lighting over there, especially given that there would be a project, houses located there. And so, currently they're not shown on the plans, but that's something that we can certainly condition and work with planning and public works as to where to locate that light and make sure that it's part of the public improvements for the project.
Okay, because that's fine. I'm coming to city council for
for streetlights on Central. It's ridiculous to have one street light. I bet everybody here has streetlights on their street.
That's a good point. All right, great. Let's go ahead and close public comments on this. I did have one additional question for staff, if that's okay. Related to the alleyway, the pole. How does that work with the easement and the distance, the 20 feet?
So in terms of, basically, are you referencing how far can they pave? Can they pave, you know?
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause
So
I was referencing it going like the neighbor's, property line. And how
Right,
that
so
coordinated.
I've had numerous conversations with the fire department, and my understanding of that is that they would be okay paving up to the power pole. And so that's what the applicant has, has proposed, is to pave up to that power pole. And like Michael had said, there I think is 1 or 2 feet, I think, from the power pole to the house, or to Red Rose Court.
Yep.
So the idea is to pave up to that, and then any additional pavement would be on their property and have an easement for that additional pavement to make that 20 feet, so.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Any additional comments, questions? Do you guys want to?
So my comments are, first of all, I want to thank Andrea for all of her time on this project, and I think she's been very generous with her time and explaining all of the details and everything to the applicant and to Planning Commission. I want to say something very positive generally. I do like the project, and I like the color schemes and everything. The old saying is the devil's in the details, and that's what we have here, and we seem to really get hung up on it. And but I want to encourage you to keep going and get it done, because once we get through it, it's going to be so much easier to get through City Council, and then building department, and then when you actually get permits to build and all that kind of stuff. Then when the county inspectors come out, they've got a complete set of plans and all the details. So I just want to encourage you to keep working. We're almost there.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's all I have.
Marcelo, you want to?
Well, I really like that you guys are working hard and we're getting there. At first, at the beginning of the meeting, I thought, gee, it doesn't sound like we made any steps toward the questions and the things that the Planning Commission asked for. But as the meeting progressed, you have been working very hard, and I see that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just like to augment what they've been saying is, thank you to Andrea and the planning team for putting that all together all the time and helping me out as well. And just making sure that we're aware and we have the information we need. And you guys have done a tremendous job on your end as well, trying to make this work out. So, it's a lot of work for all these parties, but we're getting there. So that's a great step in the right direction. I agree with the comments made by the planning department in regards to making sure we've got some clarification on the cross-section around the alley. We need to make sure that our elevations are more consistent, and then just overall consistency on the documentation, making sure that everything lines up, I think is what we really need. And then at the end of the day, because some of the other things, just looking at, the driveways and how that works, I think, public comments around consistency around landscaping and those types of things, I think is, it just adds on to that, so you get a good representation in general of what we're looking for. But I also follow in and say recommendation to extend it to the next available meeting as much as possible, and trying to work with the applicant as much as possible on the timing. Obviously, with respect to vacation time, got to be.
It's a conference, a work conference.
Okay,
So.
it's not even fun. So.
Well, they're fun too.
So I think we probably all are okay with that direction, and I don't know if we need to do a vote on that. Yep. Okay. So all in favor in extending it to the next possible meeting at November or October?
November 1st is what we have on, which is the next meeting after the 18th, so.
Okay, November 1st. Take a
So
vote.
could we actually have a motion and a second?
Okay. I will do the motion.
I'll give a second.
I motion that resolution number 18-05 be extended to the next meeting, November 1st, 2018. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So let's continue on. Staff nope. I think we already got that. So let's see. New public hearings? None. Any other business? None. Any written
Very
community?
light. Let there be light.
Yeah, let there be light. Written communications, none. Planner commissioner comments? Anything? I got a quick question regarding that. Have you guys heard anything about the traffic light? It's not traffic light. It's the crossing area on the 246 between the Oak Valley.
Are you referring to Sycamore and 246?
Yes.
I don't know the details. I know that Rose will have some of those details for you as to where we are with that. So if you would like to reach out to Rose, she probably would have a little bit more information than I would at this point.
That's just, I saw a poor kid trying to cross on that, and it's just a kind of a nightmare. Okay, planning director report.
Okay, let's see. So I don't know if you noticed, but I think it was last Friday, Blenders opened here.
They're open?
Yes, they're over by, in the Albertson Shopping Center, kind of on the corner there nearest to the 246.
The old Blockbuster.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay.
And soon we will, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the improvements going on at the old El Sitio building. We will have a new restaurant there called La Tequila. So they, in the next couple of weeks, I believe, is their general timeline. However, I don't think they quite know exactly the date that they will be opening, but that will be coming soon. So a couple new food places, restaurants, things like that. The Village Hotel project, there's just a few leftover outstanding items that need to be, reports that need to be done, and changes to the plans that need to be done. And once those are satisfied, you'll likely be seeing that in the relatively near future.
Okay.
The network project has submitted site improvement and grading plans for their project. We're just waiting on some fees and things like that before we begin our review, but they have completed those plans, and now they're in our court for review.
Okay.
And just lastly, we did submit the California River Parkways grant that we had discussed. You weren't here, Brian, but it's basically a grant application related to the trail and obtaining trail easements and getting funding to do so with a couple properties here in Buellton. Basically it's a two-tiered application process. You submit a concept, and then by the end of this month, October, we should hear back whether or not we've been invited for the full application submittal. So
Was it with the state?
it's with the California Department of Natural Resources, I
Okay.
believe. So we're crossing our fingers on that one, and we'll see how that plays out. So that's all I have.
Has there been any update around the parking situation in front of the hotels, the proposed hotels that came to us?
So I know that the city council had discussed that at a previous meeting. I was not in attendance at that meeting. However, I know that it was discussed, and I know that the hotel project applicant was there. And from my understanding, again, I wasn't there, so I don't know the details of the conversation, but it is still up for discussion, and we're still working through some of those issues and concerns that they have with the truck parking. So, but it's being discussed and yes, ongoing.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. All righty. Well, let's go ahead and adjourn the meeting at